Welcome to Off the Rails Tech, and this is the fourth video in our Django series. This video is going to be, it's probably going to be a lot of cleanup from some stuff we did in previous weeks, and by the end of the video I want to get into making forms. So one thing you notice right off the bat is I have this error message up, and you might have noticed this. I noticed this when I was kind of playing around off camera a bit. Basically, if I try to go to the admin page, it's saying restaurant matching query does not exist. So what's happening is it's trying to find a restaurant, because this is a variable, so this can be anything, and it's saying I can't find a restaurant named admin. Now, I was under the impression that these went in order, meaning that it evaluated this first, and then if it didn't find a match, it moved on to this. If it didn't find a match, it moved on, so forth and so forth. And so I thought that it would match admin, but as you can see, it's not doing that. We could probably fix this a couple ways. One way, if we really wanted to keep this URL structure, would be to use regular expressions. The other way is to change our URL structure, which is the approach I'm going to take. So instead of having a variable here at the root, we're just going to bump everything up. And so, in fact, this is no longer going to be just the root, well, yeah, because I was already playing with this a little bit earlier and I forgot to. Okay, so this is not going to be the root, it's going to be slash restaurants. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll do slash restaurants, right? And then this is going to be restaurants slash the name of the restaurant, and then this is going to be restaurants slash the name of the restaurant slash the dish. And then that's going to free us up so that we'll never have a conflict. Admin will never think that this is a variable. Now we're going to have to fix things in a few other places. We're going to have to fix it in our base URL, make this restaurants, and we're going to have to fix the links on the restaurants page, because this is going to have to go to slash restaurants, and we'll have to fix the link on the dishes. This is going to have to go like that. I think that's all we have to do. Let's test it out real quick. I did make some updates off camera to the view of the dishes. I'll show you those right now. And it did not because this link, as you can see in the bottom, is still incorrect. So that is on the... it should be correct. I think maybe I just need to restart the web server here for it to take effect. Or maybe just refresh the page as well. Now it's not working because we're not on slash restaurants. There we go. And now if we click here, dish matching query does not exist. This is starting to be a doozy of an episode, huh? We're running into all sorts of problems. Matching query does not exist. Restaurants. Request URL. This is wrong because I have, as you can see in the bottom left hand corner, it's restaurant slash Ember. It should just be restaurant slash Ember. So we have restaurant/restaurant slug. Restaurants HTML. Why is this doubling up? What if I do? Okay. I think I know what was happening. You see in the bottom left-hand corner, it's now working. I didn't have the / here, so it was doing a relative link. So we could actually, yeah, it's working now. You see, I made a table here. I kind of cleaned it up. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'll go through this with you. It won't take too long, just so you can see kind of how I did this. But we could use relative links, going back to what I was just saying. If we wanted, we could, I think we could take all this out, just leave restaurant slug. And if I refresh the page here, since I don't have a leading slash, yep, the links still look good. So yeah, we'll go with the relative link. Why not? But we need to fix our dishes now. And the dishes are going to double restaurants as well. See if that fixes things here. Yep. Okay. I'm not going to probably clean this up this week. This will probably be for next week. We'll clean this up, make it look a little nicer. So for the rest of this video, I want to clean this up, make it look a little more like this. And then we're going to add some forms. We'll add a form where we can create a restaurant so that we can do it here rather than through the admin, and the admin should no longer give us problems. There we go. You can see I was doing a bunch of shit off camera here. But anyway, that's besides the point. Let's get to it. So how did I create this? This was pretty simple. I just used some of the formatting you can see here. So this div class here, this all 45, is basically a percentage that you can just, it's part of that ink CSS. If you go to the website, you can dig around and see, but this is basically making this table 45% of the screen, so that it's not extending from here all the way to here. In fact, just as a little demonstration, let's bump it up to 75 temporarily, reload the page, and now you just see how the table expanded. This is too wide for my liking, especially, you know, maybe on a really tiny screen it's okay, but most people are going to have a screen probably at least that big, right? Unless they're on mobile, but I'm not worried about that. I'm going to bump it back down. Okay, so let's just take all of this, copy and paste it. So we'll copy it, and then we're going to go to the restaurants. And so we have this for loop here. Obviously we don't want the table to start inside the for loop. Then it's going to make a new table for everything in the for loop, and we don't want that. So oh, I didn't mean to copy all this. I just wanted to copy up to here. So the first thing we're going to do is Rating is something we're going to get back to because I actually want to have a rating on the main page. I think that would be very useful, but we'll add that in a little bit here. So we're just going to do name, town. Let's add state. I think that would be kind of useful information to have on the main page. So now we're going to start our T body. Now we're going to get to the part that's going to be inside of our loop. Now we're in our for loop, and now we're going to take this restaurant name. We'll cut that. We're going to put that here, and then we're going to cut this. Put the town, and then we're going to put the state, and we're going to get rid of this garbage. We're going to end for, and then we're going to end the body, and then we're going to end the table. So that should clean up our main page here much better. I do think this one warrants, you can see that the text is getting almost crashing into each other here. I do feel like this one needs to be a bit bigger than the other one, so let's bump this one up to 65 or just 60. We'll see what that looks like. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we had a rating on our main page rather than having to click in and then we see the rating of the individual dishes? And I think the rating ought to be the average of these dishes. So, you know, I changed the rating on this off camera. It was 4. I dropped it down to a 3 just so that we can see in this example that the average is working. So, okay, how are we going to do that? We had to go back to our views, and we're basically just going to build the rating here. And there is a and I didn't have it up, unfortunately. It's okay. So there's something built into Django. It's called average. So we're just going to grab that. We have to import it from the models, though. So this is going to be from Django DB models import average. And then we're actually gonna build a dictionary here, and the dictionary is gonna hold the ratings for each restaurant. So we'll call this restaurant ratings, and this is just gonna be an empty dictionary. And then we're gonna have a for loop. We're gonna say for restaurant in restaurants, and then we're gonna get the average. So we actually had to get we're gonna get the average of the dish, of the dishes. So we're gonna go dish objects filter, because we don't want every dish object from every restaurant. We just want all of the dishes for a particular restaurant. So that's going to equal, that's going to be restaurant equals restaurant. So we're saying the restaurant field is equal to the restaurant here in our for loop. And then we're going to say aggregate average, and we want to aggregate the average on the rating field, right? And we actually need to make this, we'll just call this rating, right? And now we just have to pop it into our dictionary. So let's do restaurant ratings. And this is going to be the name of the restaurant. So the name of the restaurant is going to be this right here. Actually, we want the slug. So we want the restaurant slug. And then that is going to equal rating. Okay, so we built our dictionary. It has all the ratings. So each dictionary is going to have the restaurant name and then the rating. Now we have to get that into our template. So we have to pass this into the template. Restaurant ratings. Okay, let's just take a look at this before we go and add everything. Well, sometimes for me it's helpful. I just want to see what this looks like. So I'm going to take restaurant ratings and we're just going to plop it at the end of the HTML, and we'll load the page and we'll see what we're working with here. Okay, so there we go. And you can see there is something interesting here. It's not just a dictionary. So here's our dictionary item, right? Here's the key is the restaurant name, and then we have another key to the restaurant name. But the value is actually another nested dictionary, which has a key called rating average with a value. So that is good to know. So in our template now, we're going to have to I don't think I saved what I wanted to save, but in our template we should be able to get the restaurant. So up here we want to have a rating. And there's not a good way to do this, is there? I thought I found a way earlier. I'm just gonna quickly do a Google search here, because I think there's a slick way to do this. I just can't remember. If I can't find it, then we'll do it an ugly way, and maybe we'll fix it next week. So Django template, and we want to dictionary. We want dictionary value. Let me just pop this open, and then we'll Yeah, this is the kind of the ugly way I was thinking of doing it. Yeah, you know, I don't want to spend a lot of time here trying to dig into this on camera. We'll do it the kind of the ugly way, and then we might fix it in another episode. So basically, we're gonna do a for loop here, which is kind of not great. Except we don't want to do it for my dig items. We want to do it for restaurant ratings. And this is ugly. Yeah, we'll do it the ugly way, and maybe we'll fix it, like I said, next week. And now we're gonna have to do a if statement. If key equals restaurant name and we'll have to do this. So if key equals restaurant name, then we want a value, right? Yeah, but we don't just want value. We want well, let's take a look at this. We want value. And you're gonna have to end the if. End if. So here. And we're going to end the for because we have another for loop. End for. So that's ending this for loop, not this one. And I think what this is going to get us closer, but it's not going to be exactly what we want because it's a nested dictionary, right? So we now have the field over here, but we're getting nothing here. And this is the slug, and this is the slug. It's got the dashes, right? So if key equal restaurant slug. Okay. Let's see if that. Okay. So this is kind of what I was expecting. Now we have the averages here, but it's displaying the entire nested dictionary rather than just this. I'm trying to find that code. There is. Thought I found something the other day. Accessing. Why didn't I copy this? I think it's just I think it's just Let's give that a try. Don't know if that'll work. Nope. I really want to get this to work correctly. Getting dictionary values. I know there's a way to do it. My datadic.key. Oh, I think I just have this backwards. I think I just do value. I think. There we go. Okay, so I just had it backwards. All right, sorry for the little research project there. But hey, that's what Off the Rails Tech is about, you know? We do things kind of by the seat of our pants. You know, I like to take you guys through some of the troubleshooting. So we can clean this up a little bit and get rid of this. And there. Now we have our average rating, which is the average of this, and yeah, that's a nice little feature we have going for us. So now let's get into forms, which is probably why you're watching this video in the first place. We're going to build a form. So to do that, we need to create a new file. We're going to create a file called forms.py. Okay, the first thing we're going to want to do is from Django import forms. And then we're going to build our form, which is going to be a class. And we'll just call it add restaurant form. And it's going to extend forms.form. And the fields we want are going to be the name, the address, town, and state. And state's going to be the only one that's going to be a little bit tricky. Everything else is going to be pretty standard and easy. So it's just a form char field for the name, and whoops, and that's not what I wanted to do. Delete for the name, the address, the town. Now state is going to be a little bit different, because if you remember, we have that local flavor thing, so that over here we have this nice beautiful drop down, and if you go to read the docs for Django local flavor, you'll see that there is a local flavor us.forms US state field. So we're going to import that. So I'm going to say from import, and then we're going to want US state field. And then this is just going to be US state field. And there's one other thing. You might notice that over here there's widget equals none. So all this is going to do is validate that the value enter is a US state. But we don't want it to just validate. We actually want the drop down. So as you see over here, there is a US state select widget. This is a select widget. So we're going to, instead of doing by default this widget equal none, we're going to do widget equals US state select, which is going to give us the drop down. So this is going to be widget equals US state select. Now we can't just do that because this is actually something we have to import. as well. Fortunately, it's in the same local flavor US form, so we just can add it to the end here. Okay, so we've built our form. We've defined what fields we want on our form. And you will notice that there's one field missing, and that's the slug field. And as you might recall from last week's video, I kind of made a mistake when I was manually typing in the slug field. So we don't want to manually handle the slug field. We want to automate that. So to do that, we have to change it in the model. We're going to overwrite the save method. So it's going to be def save self, and then do args and keyword arguments. And so this is going to overwrite the save method, and so when an object gets saved, it's going to do this in addition to what it normally does. So what we're going to do is we're going to say that self slug equals slugify self name. And slugify is something special. We actually have to import it because it's not available to us right now. So this is from Django utils text import slugify. And what slugify does is basically take, so if the name of the restaurant had a bunch of spaces in it or special characters that aren't URL friendly, slugify is going to take those spaces and convert them to dashes, or take other characters and convert them to something that is URL friendly. Now there's one more part we have to do here. We have to do super restaurant self save, and this just calls the actual save method. So there's one more thing. We have this unique true, but this field is required. And we don't want it to be required because we're going to be passing this information in the form, and we're not going to pass anything for the slug because we want this to take care of it. Unfortunately, this isn't going to get called. It's going to check to see this stuff before it calls this. So what we have to do is say, hey, blank equals true. I don't think we need null equals true. Blank equal true means you can pass the data blank in a form. Null equals true means that it can be null in the database. By the time it gets to the database, it should have info in it. So we'll go without the null equals true. We might have to add it, but if I'm correct, then we shouldn't have to. We did make some changes to our model, so we are going to have to make migrations. And migrate. And run server. Okay. So now that we've built our form, we defined the fields that are on it, and we're taking care of the slug field over here, we got to actually get it on a view. So we're going to build a new view. We're going to call this class add restaurant view view. Def get request. And we're going to need the form. So we're going to do from forms, import the form we just made, which is add restaurant form. And we have to add the form. So we're going to just call it restaurant form equals add restaurant form. And I'm going to give it a prefix, and this basically has to do with whether the form is bound or unbound. I might explain that in the next video, because I'm going to be doing, there'll be like a second part to the forms, because I'm not going to get to everything in this video. One thing that I definitely want to do is on this main page, as this gets longer and longer, on this main page, as this gets longer and longer, you might want to have a filter or search basically at the top where you just, search for a particular restaurant, or you search for a town or a state, and it just filters out your results. I won't get to that this week. That will be next week. For now, we're just going to be building the form to add a restaurant. So there's our form. Now we need context, which is just going to be the form. And then we're going to return, render, request, and we're going to have to make a new file, a new HTML file, add restaurant HTML, and context. Unresolved reference context. There we go. And that's pretty much it for the get. This is gonna pass the form to our HTML file where we will display it. We'll have to add a post, but we'll do that shortly. Let's go ahead and let's just copy this, and we'll call this add restaurant. Did I spell that right? I didn't spell that right. Let's fix it. Add restaurant. There, add restaurant, and oh, what? What happened? Oh, okay. Never mind. I got confused for a second. I forgot I copied. We gotta fix the spelling though. There. That should be good. Alright, add restaurant. Let's get rid of everything. Let's get rid of everything except for that. Okay, perfect. Sorry, I got confused there. Yeah, we got to build our restaurant here. So just give it a heading. We'll call it add a restaurant. And now we need our form. So form action equals restaurants add restaurant. And this is going to be important. This has to match the URL. So we'll have to add the URL in a minute. So that needs to match. The method is going to be a post method because we're going to be submitting a form. And we'll give it a class of inc form, which is in our CSS framework. If you go to the inc website, you can see the classes for the forms and everything. We'll just whatever. It's inc CSS interface kit UI elements. There should be forms here somewhere. Forms. So there's the class name, inc form. You can see it in action down here. Yeah. So, on to our form. One thing we're going to need is a CSRF token. And basically that's a security feature. It's basically required in Django for any form. It's not going to work if you don't include this. It prevents basically against cross-site request forgery, which would basically be like if you were logged into, your bank or credit card, then you had that session, on a separate tab or whatever, then you went to another site. This would prevent them from accessing that session. And it's, like I said, it's required in Django. It won't even work. The form won't work if you don't have it, so you just gotta throw it in there. What are we passing? We are passing restaurant form. Add restaurant. We'll do restaurant form as P. So this is going to basically render the form. Every line is going to be basically wrapped in a paragraph tag like this. We can render the form manually. Probably not going to get to that this week. Might do something with that next week. And then we need an input button. We need a button to submit this with. So type, we want a submit button. And we can give it a value. And we'll say this will be the text that's displayed on the button. Let's say add a restaurant. Alright, there's our input button. There's the end of our form. This should be good to go. Add restaurant. So we're almost ready to view this. We do have to add a URL. So let's just go ahead and do that. Slash add restaurant, delete that. And our view is add restaurant view. Add restaurant as view. Now I'm hoping that this does not ever get conflated with this like we did with the admin. But we'll just roll with what we got for now. Let's go to base. Let's add a thing to our nav bar. Let's call it add a restaurant. And this is going to be restaurant, add restaurant. That was in base. Where's base? Okay. Let's check it out. Refresh, add a restaurant. look at that. There's our form. We even have a nice drop-down list with our states just like we wanted. We can flip back and forth. So let's go ahead and add a restaurant. I'm going to add House of Teriyaki, which is a restaurant in Amherst that I've been to. And the address. Town. And add. Right. We're not handling the post. I got too excited. I jumped the gun. So we have the get. So the get is basically when we load the page, it's going to grab the form, pass it to context, put it on the template. But when we actually hit the submit button, when we hit the button that says add a restaurant, it doesn't have a post. It doesn't know what to do once we hit submit. So we have to create that. So we have to have def post because we're handling the post from the form. So again, we're going to want the restaurant form just like we have in the get, except we have to, along with the prefix, we have to have request.post. So this is going to get the filled out form, basically. So this request.post is saying, hey, I want the form, but I want it from the request with the data that the user has entered. And now we have to process the form. So we're grabbing the form and we have to process the form. And we're going to actually add a dictionary. Let's just call it form data. And this is where we're going to store everything we get out of the form. Now we're going to say if restaurant form is valid, then we're going to do something. And if it's not valid, well, for now we're going to do nothing. Just because I don't want this video getting too long, I might add something next week. So, if restaurant form is valid, we're going to say for key value in restaurant form cleaned data items. So this is going to iterate through all the cleaned data from the form. And we're just basically going to add this to our dictionary. We're going to add it, the key, and then the value. And then as long as that's good, we're going to build a restaurant objects create. And there's a couple ways you could do this. The slick way is just to do this ** form data. And that's going to take everything in the form data and just add it. And when I say just add it, it's basically a short, easy way to do it that's not manual. So like the manual way would be to say create, and then you just do every single field. You do name equals, and then you could do form data, and then you do name equals, name equals, yeah, form data name, right? And that would be it. And then you'd keep going, and you'd have to do address and so forth and so forth. That's just, I'm just showing you the manual way. But we're gonna do it this way because it's a lot not cleaner. And then we're gonna, once we're done with this, we don't want to just sit here on the form and redisplay another blank form, right? I mean, we could if we thought that we'd want to be adding restaurant and then immediately add another restaurant. That might be not a bad idea, but the way I envision, at least myself, using this app is I'm not going to add a restaurant then immediately want to add a different restaurant. I'm going to want to go back to the main restaurant list. So what we're going to do is return, instead of render, we're going to redirect. And whoops, redirect, and we're just going to go to restaurants. Now redirect, you'll notice it's complaining about redirect because it's something we have to import. There we go. Okay, now we should be able to actually fill out the form, and it should save if everything went smoothly. So I think let's just back up, go here, House of Teriyaki, copy the address, and add restaurant, post, using the URL. Does not like okay, so that is a problem. Alright, we'll fix it. You know what? For adding a restaurant, we'll just do add restaurant. And I gotta fix that in the base. So that's just gonna be add restaurant. And I gotta fix that in the form here. Okay, I think I got everything. So let's go back here. Give it a go. Name, value, not defined. What did I do wrong, guys? Name, values, not defined. Views, post, in line 31. 31. For key, oh, I misspelled value up here. Typos, man, I tell you. Spelling, I was never, ever any good at spelling. Still am not. And I don't have the address copied to the clipboard anymore. I have value. Look at that. It brought us back to the restaurants page. We have House of Teriyaki right there. Our form works, guys. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I think that's going to be it for this video. Next week, we'll probably be adding 2 forms. We'll add another form that will allow us to add dishes to a restaurant, and then we'll also add a form where we can filter results on this main page. Hope you guys are enjoying the series. I do apologize about last week's video. I was pretty damn tired. You know, after I recorded that video, I even was like, I don't even know if I should post this or if I should just recreate it. But I wanted to it was either no video last week or the video that I posted, and I decided it was better to put out a video than to not put out a video. Anyway, hope you guys are enjoying it. See you next week. We'll dive more into the forms.